8. 8 Chinese military aircraft.
And 7 naval vessels.
Right, 7 naval vessels. And that is just the activity from this past Saturday.
February 21st.
Yeah, exactly. Saturday, February 21st. But if you were looking at the Ministry of National Defense logs this morning, like I was, the raw number isn't even the headline here.
No, it's not. The headline is the flight path.
Because every single one of those 8 aircraft crossed the median line.
Right. All 8. They didn't just, skirt the edge of the air defense identification zone. They pushed right through the center court.
Which effectively just erases the line. And look, we track these sorties constantly on this deep dive. It is really easy to get numb to the daily count.
Oh, absolutely.
But our mission today isn't about counting planes. We need to look at this weekend's surge as basically one corner of a much darker triangle.
Yeah, very complex triangle.
We've got the military escalation on the water, obviously. Then we have a massive diplomatic gamble happening between Washington and Beijing. And this is the part that frankly just baffles me, we have a total political gridlock inside Taiwan itself.
Yeah, it really is a collision of 3 different timelines. You have the tactical timeline, right? Those jets crossing the line right now. Then you have the diplomatic timeline with the upcoming summit. And you have the legislative timeline in Taipei, which is currently frozen.
So that's what we're digging into today. We are looking at a stack of really fascinating sources. We've got recent reports over on Patreon analyzing the Ministry of National Defense data.
We also have diplomatic cables regarding U.S.-China relations as of late February 2026.
Right. And we want to figure out how these 3 distinct things are feeding into each other. Because to me, this doesn't look like standard harassment.
No, it's not. It is a textbook acceleration of a gray zone operation.
Yeah.
But we really have to be careful with that term, gray zone.
Why is that?
Well, people hear it and they think ambiguous or maybe minor.
Yeah, or they think it just means everything short of actual shooting.
Exactly. But looking at the data from this weekend, the intent is incredibly specific. It's pressure that stops short of war, but it fundamentally changes the status quo.
And it's happening exactly when U.S. foreign policy is in this really delicate flux. But let's look at how that baseline shifted just this weekend. We mentioned Saturday, 8 planes, 7 ships, all crossing the median line into the north, central, and southwest ADIZ.
Yeah, the air defense identification zones.
But Friday, February 20th, was actually worse volume-wise.
Significantly worse. Friday saw 14 PLA aircraft and 6 naval vessels.
And 10 of those aircraft crossed the line.
Right. And then if you look at Thursday, February 19th, you had another 14 sorties. But what caught my eye in the Thursday report wasn't the total number. It was the composition of the hardware.
Because we weren't just seeing drones or the older jets.
No. We saw J-10s, J-11s, and J-16.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, those are the heavy hitters. The J-16 is a multi-role strike fighter. But the real tell in that Thursday formation was what was flying right alongside them. They were escorted by a KJ-500.
Which is an early warning aircraft, right?
Exactly. An airborne early warning and control aircraft. You don't send a KJ-500 just to annoy Taiwanese air traffic controllers. You send it to practice battle management.
I think that's the distinction that really matters for anyone listening. If you send a couple of fighters to buzz the line, that's a political signal.
Sure.
But if you send a KJ-500 with a strike package, you are rehearsing a kill chain. You are actively practicing how to coordinate data between the fighters in the air and the ships down below.
And you're also forcing Taiwan to reveal how their radar paints that specific aircraft. So it's an intelligence gathering mission wrapped inside an intimidation mission. And the sheer scale of this, if you zoom out to the whole month of February 2026, the tempo is unrelenting.
The numbers are actually staggering. I have the monthly total from the source material right here. In just February alone, Taiwan tracked Chinese military aircraft 150 times. 150 times.
And naval vessels 140 times.
Think about the logistics of that on the receiving end. That means roughly 5 to 6 times a day, Taiwan's military has to make a choice. Do we scramble jets? Do we illuminate them with radar? Do we activate the shore-based missile batteries?
And every single time they scramble, it costs money.
Lots of money.
It puts hours on the airframes. It tires out the pilots. It's a massive resource drain.
And it creates that alert fatigue. If the siren rings 5 times a day, every day, eventually the population, and honestly the military leadership, starts to treat it like background noise.
Right, it becomes the new normal.
And that is exactly when an adversary either strikes or just moves the line further in, because nobody has the energy to react anymore.
The sources note that this intensification of gray zone tactics really kicked into high gear back in September 2020.
Yes, that was a major turning point.
But comparing 2020 to what we are seeing right now in February 2026, the concept of a median line is practically gone.
Yeah.
It used to be that crossing it was international news. Now, 8 jets do it on a Saturday, and it's barely a footnote. That is the strategic victory of the gray zone. They've successfully erased a boundary that stood for decades simply by ignoring it repeatedly until the world just stopped clutching its pearls.
But here is where the timing aspect of our triangle really comes into play. Why are we seeing this surge right now? Because usually when you have a major diplomatic summit on the calendar, you see a lull in military activity, right? You want to set the table for a handshake.
Normally, yes. And we have a very high-stakes summit coming up. President Donald Trump is scheduled to fly to China from March 31st to April 2nd, 2026, to meet with President Xi Jinping.
Okay, so we're about 5 weeks out from that trip. Conventional wisdom says Beijing should be playing nice to ensure the summit actually happens, but instead they are visibly cranking up the pressure.
Well, the pressure is the negotiation. To understand those 150 sorties in the Taiwan Strait, we have to look at what's happening in Washington right now. There's a massive piece of leverage sitting on the table.
The new arms package for Taiwan.
Exactly. A huge package.
And the diplomatic cables we're analyzing call it massive. We're talking about a potential $20 billion deal that includes Patriot missiles systems.
Which are absolutely crucial for Taiwan's integrated air defense. But according to the reporting, that package is currently in limbo.
In limbo, which feels like a polite way of saying it's stalled. And we know exactly why it's stalled, because Xi Jinping brought this up directly.
He did. On February 4th, there was a phone call between Trump and Xi. And while most of the readout was standard diplomatic language, Xi specifically urged the U.S. to handle arms sales, quote, prudently.
Prudently. In diplomatic speak, that is a heavy word.
It's essentially a warning. He's saying if you sign that $20 billion deal, it's going to derail the summit.
And the president practically confirmed this linkage. On February 17th, speaking to reporters on Air Force One, Trump was asked about this exact arms package.
And his response was very telling.
Right. He didn't just come out and say, we are fully supporting Taiwan's defense.
Yeah.
He said he is talking to Xi about it and will make a decision very soon.
Which strongly suggests the arms sale is being used as a bargaining chip.
So if Washington delays it, maybe they get better trade terms during the summit. But if they approve it right now, the whole summit could blow up.
And Beijing knows this. They know the current U.S. administration really wants this summit to happen. So they are using this military surge, those 150 flights in February, to demonstrate the potential cost of that arms deal.
It's like they're saying, you want to sell them $20 billion in weapons? Fine. But look at how tense we can make the region. Look at what we can do on a random Saturday.
Do you really want to pour gas on this fire right before a major photo op in Beijing? It's a vivid demonstration of consequences. And we have a very recent precedent for this, which we can't ignore.
You're talking about December 2025?
Yes. December 2025 is the ghost haunting this current negotiation.
Because just a few months ago, the U.S. approved an $11.1 billion deal that was the largest ever at the time. HIMARS, howitzers, drones, javelins.
And the reaction from China was instantaneous.
Right. They launched Mission Justice 2025.
Exactly. In late December, they rolled out these massive exercises. It was the largest set of maneuvers since 2022. Every action in this space has an immediate massive reaction.
So the White House is probably looking at December and thinking, okay, $11 billion got us Mission Justice 2025. If we approve $20 billion right now, we get Mission Justice 2026, exactly when Air Force One is supposed to be landing.
Exactly. The military activity this weekend is a calculated reminder of that capability. It keeps the memory of December fresh for American negotiators.
All right, so we have the external threat, the physical pressure from China peaking. We have the U.S. hesitating on this $20 billion shield because of high-stakes diplomacy.
Right.
Now let's pivot to the third point of this triangle, the internal situation in Taiwan. Because when you read the legislative reports from Taipei, this is where the story gets incredibly complicated.
The sources actually use the phrase political paralysis to describe it.
Which is wild. You would think with J-16s and KJ-500s crossing the median line daily and the U.S. wavering on arms sales, that Taiwan's government would be instantly united on defense. You'd think they'd be slamming the approve button on any defense budget they could draft.
But that is not what's happening at all. President Lai Ching-ten has proposed a special defense budget of roughly $40 billion.
$40 billion.
Yeah, and the intent is for this to be a robust multi-year fund to actually pay for the systems they need to counter these exact gray zone threats. But it is completely gridlocked.
I read the number in the report. It's been blocked by the legislature more than 11 times since December.
Over 11 times, yes. The legislature is currently controlled by the opposition. So that's the Kuomintang or KMT and the Taiwan People's Party, the TPP.
Right.
They hold the majority, and they have been refusing to let the measure clear.
Now, we need to be really clear about what the sources say regarding their motives, because it's important to impartially report both sides here. The opposition isn't just saying, we don't want to defend Taiwan.
No, not at all. Their argument is centered on oversight.
Right. The reports outline that the opposition is demanding greater oversight and strict fiscal discipline before they approve the funds. They are arguing that they need more detail on exactly how this $40 billion will be spent.
Exactly. From a purely legislative standpoint, demanding oversight before approving a massive special budget is a standard function of an opposition party.
Sure, it's how a democracy works. But it's the timing of this blockade that makes it so significant to our deep dive today. Having this internal budget fight while enemy aircraft are probing your ADZ over 150 times a month, that creates a massive vulnerability.
It does. And Washington is watching this political paralysis very closely. It's not just a domestic Taiwanese issue anymore.
Not at all. Let's talk about the letter from February 13th.
This was a highly unusual move. A bipartisan group of 37 U.S. lawmakers sent a direct letter to Taiwan's legislative leaders.
37 lawmakers.
Yes. And the tone of the letter was striking. They expressed, quote, serious concern about the delays.
It's pretty rare for U.S. Congress members to inject themselves so publicly into the internal budgeting process of another democracy. That shows you just how worried Washington is about this gridlock.
It does. And the message in the letter was very clear. The U.S. wants to see Taiwan pass a robust, multi-year defense special budget.
Because, as the letter stated, that would show Taiwan is willing to defend itself.
Willing to defend itself. That is the critical phrase.
It really is. It's basically saying, if you aren't willing to fund your own defense, it's going to be very hard for us to justify sending our resources or risking our own diplomatic summits to help you.
Right. It creates this dangerous negative feedback loop. If Taipei's legislature is paralyzed and won't approve funding, it gives Washington an excuse to hesitate on that $20 billion Patriot package.
Which then makes Taiwan feel like the U.S. is abandoning them, which just fuels more internal political fighting.
Meanwhile, the PLA is flying right across the median line, while both sides are bogged down in their own political delays.
It really brings the whole triangle into focus. You have China steadily increasing physical pressure, effectively erasing the median line. You have the U.S. hesitating on vital arms sales to protect a delicate summit in Beijing. And you have Taiwan's own legislature stalling its multi-year defense funding over an internal oversight dispute.
And all three of these things are peaking at the exact same moment. Late February, early March 2026.
So for anyone listening to this deep dive, the real takeaway here isn't just the sheer number of jets in the sky. The takeaway is the timing.
It's always about the timing.
The physical military pressure from China is hitting its highest point exactly when the diplomatic and political defenses of the U.S. and Taiwan are at their most uncertain.
Which leaves us with a really difficult question to ponder based on these sources.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when reading through the diplomatic cables. If that $20 billion U.S. arms package remains in limbo just to save the Trump-Xi summit in April, does that signal a temporary pause for diplomatic convenience? Or are we looking at a fundamental shift in how the U.S. manages the cross-strait balance?
That is the big unknown. And on the other side of the ocean, can Taiwan resolve its internal budget fight before this gray zone pressure turns into something much darker?
Because right now, the only thing moving fast in this entire scenario are those jets crossing the median line.
Everything else is completely stuck.
It's a lot to process. We will keep tracking these documents as we get closer to the March summit.
Definitely. There will be a lot more to analyze.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.